Did Christians attend synagogues?
Now, when we ask, are Gentiles keeping the Sabbath? What we're asking is, are there Gentile believers who were keeping the Sabbath? There are no believers who are in the synagogue who were keeping the Sabbath.
Let's set a little biblical context. Acts chapter 6, verse 8. Now, Stephen, a man full of God's grace and power, performed great wonders and signs among the people. Opposition arose, however, from members of the synagogue of the freedmen, as it was called, Jews of Cyrene and Alexandria, as well as the provinces of Cilicia, and Asia, who began to argue with Stephen, but they could not stand up against the wisdom the Spirit gave him as he spoke. Notice the spread of where these men came from, and notice why they were persecuting Stephen and wanting to kill him, because they couldn't stand up against the arguments that he presented to them from the Torah concerning the Messiah. And he was a synagogue attendee. This is where the issue arose with these men. But at his stoning, there was a man named Saul, at which they laid their garments at his feet. And he has his own testimony as to what he used to do before his conversion and how he persecuted the believers and where it was that he went to find those believers when he was persecuting them. So let's check out what Paul, who was then known as Saul, had to say about his persecution of the followers of the way. So, Acts chapter 9. Meanwhile, Saul was still breathing out murderous threats against the Lord's disciples. He went to the high priest and asked him for letters to the synagogues in Damascus, so that if he found any there who belonged to the way, whether men or women, he might take them as prisoners to Jerusalem. So notice where he's going to look for these believers. He's going to Damascus, to the synagogues there, and he's going to take any that he finds back to Jerusalem so that he could deal with them there. Oh, but you say that might not be really telling us the full story. Maybe he was going to look for them in their homes and he just wanted authority from the synagogues in order to carry out his work. Well, let's see. Acts chapter 22, verse 19. Paul, recounting his life as Saul, says this, "And I said, Lord, they know that I imprisoned and beat in every synagogue them that believed on thee." So where did he do it? In every synagogue. And who was he beating? Believers in Christ, because they were attending those synagogues. So maybe Paul isn't quite giving an accurate account. Let's see if he says anything anywhere else. Oh yes, Acts 26, verse 11. "And I punished them oft," where? "In every synagogue, and compelled them to blaspheme. And being exceedingly mad against them, I persecuted them, even unto strange cities." Sorry. So once again, Paul is quite emphatic that it was in every synagogue that he found these believers, and that is where he persecuted them. Why? Because he had authority from the high priest to carry out such work in every synagogue. Now, I know you have a problem with understanding the synagogues and their role in Jewish and the cultural setting of the New Testament. So in the next response, we'll look at that and see how this ties in with Paul's testimony of exactly what he used to do in those synagogues.
Now, you might have a Gentile who may have converted to Judaism who was trying to keep the Sabbath, but again, Simply by being at the synagogue doesn't mean that you're keeping it. And oh, by the way, are you truly keeping the Sabbath if you do not know who the Lord is? Are we saying that these Jews or these Gentiles are true Sabbath keepers if they were told to keep the Sabbath?